I think with networking, it's not about talking to people. It's not about introducing yourself to people. It's actions. It speaks volumes. Being on set and, just being malleable.
That right there is the sign of a mature person.
Blake Jones is a top-tier photographer who shot for the likes of Disney, Adidas, and McDonald's. He's built a career on authenticity and storytelling.
Hospitality is more important in this industry than people think it is. Running my business here versus Orlando or New York, surprisingly, being here, I've enjoyed it tenfold. It has been so much more rewarding for me being here.
Blake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
I am super excited to get to just jump into everything. I know it's going to be jam-packed, so let's do this.
Absolutely, man. Let's go.
So I wanted to jump into some of your origins. So what were kind of like your formative years like? Well, like what was little Blake like?
Little Blake. So I grew up in Pace, Milton area. Was kind of, I was one of those kids. I was raised a single kid. I just like, what is
Only child.
Only child. There it is. Yeah. I don't know where that was. Only child. And two parents that worked a lot. So I was kind of left alone to my own devices at a young age. Because back in the 90s, that's what everyone did.
Yep.
You know what I mean? As long as you don't light the house on fire, you're good.
Yeah.
So at a young age, I was very curious. Like I was the kid who was moving the Nintendo from one room to the other and learning how to hook it up on my own. I was the one who was taking apart my toys and putting them back together to see if they would still work, just to kind of keep myself entertained. And so I got into sports, young age, played baseball, football, soccer, liked soccer, but everything else I was like, it's not really for me.
Yeah.
Then I started skateboarding when I was like 12. And while I was starting to skateboard, I started playing music. And skate culture really did a lot for me. Skate culture did more for me than I think any other part of my life has.
Okay.
And I know that's a fact because I've got friends that I have made or people that I have met and become close with in other facets of life that the friendship will last a year or two.
Yeah.
I've got friends that I made in like the skateboarding world when I was 12 or 13 years old that I'm still friends with now and still actively talk to now, like in a group chat, like hanging out with these people. And it taught me the value of relationships.
Yeah.
It taught me the value of just keep trying until you get it. If you fall, get up. That's an old saying, like you fall, get back up and try it again. With skateboarding, that's literally what it is, and it really did give me this like perseverance mindset of whatever obstacle it is, I'm going to try to get over it. And, from that, I got, like I said, very heavy into music. I was very much blessed with a keen ear. I can hear something and kind of know exactly where it would be on a guitar.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. No one in my family is musically talented. It just kind of works.
Just a blessing.
It's just a blessing. And, I went very, very hard with music until I was about 23 or 24. And I got to a point where it just kind of like how I was saying with photography, I got to a point where I felt like I was just giving myself and everything I had to something that was giving me nothing in return. I would have moments of joy and moments of happiness, but they were quickly just demolished by stress and worry and financial burdens and just soiling relationships. And not, when you're in the music industry, I feel like it's very common for people to, everyone you meet, you treat them like they're a stepladder. And it's what, if you can't do something for me to get from where I'm at now to where I want to be, you're useless to me. Yeah. And that's just, unfortunately, that's how the music industry is and kind of always has been.
Yeah.
And I fell victim to that too. And I started treating my relationships like they were disposable. And, I kind of just felt myself slipping and slipping and slipping. And I decided that I was going to go to school for graphic design. Got into the graphic design program. They told me I had to take photography. I was pissed. I didn't want to do that.
So that's like, did you pick up a camera before then?
No, never.
So college was when it first fell in your hands. What was your first camera? I just got to know.
So my first camera was a Nikon F3 film camera, 35 millimeter.
Okay. I'm curious if that was the same one Caleb had, because he talked about it last week.
Really? Yeah. He might have. I know that Caleb and I ended up being in a class together, a couple of classes together. I think he had a Nikon FM, if I'm not mistaken, but he might have had an F3. And yeah, they told me I had to take photography, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, I don't want to take photography. I'm here to be a graphic designer, you know? And the story goes, you know, I took photo one, and the whole time I'm like, this is boring. I hate this. I don't like this. And then I got in the dark room for the first time and like printed my first picture, and I was like, this is it. I love this. Like, this is what I want to do. And I changed my major that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a huge shift to go from I want to do graphic to this sucks to, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
I think it totally came from that mindset, though, of like feeling like I had failed in music. And it's not instant, but seeing a photo that you took and then you develop the film, and it's a process. Mm-hmm. But I think that seeing the photo come through in the developer paper for the first time, it felt like the closest thing to instant gratification that I had felt in a very long time. And I feel like that was a moment that propelled me to want to like further dive into something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I know, and like even my girlfriend will say, I'm like that annoying person that's like, if I'm doing anything, I feel like I have to know everything about it, or I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I will let it consume me.
You're a lifelong learner. And I love that, because I'm the same way. I feel like me and you like share very common with, it's like, oh, what are you doing on your lunch break? Oh, I'm watching YouTube tutorials on this random small little aspect of an editing software.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. And then like the same thing, it's like, you know, my girlfriend will be like, hey, like, what are you looking at? And it's like, oh, I'm looking at this light. She's like, you going to buy it? And I'm like, I don't know yet. I got to research it for another 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I got to compare it. I've got to look at this light versus this light. What is this one going to do that this one won't do?
I'm going to watch 20 YouTube videos.
I'm going to see everyone use it. But
see what Gerald Undone thinks about it, all of this.
Let's see. But that's my mentality. And I think that's like, it's a good thing. It's a bad thing, because I've become very hard on myself with learning, and with, I get frustrated with myself whenever I should know something that I don't. And that's something that I actually learned from bartending. Is one of my mentors taught me that to carry a little notebook with your pocket on your persons. And if somebody asks you a question that you don't know, tell them you don't know it. I don't know the answer.
Yes.
But let's figure it out together. So you do your research together, write that question down, write the answer down. Or if you don't have time to research it, write the question down that you got asked you didn't know the answer to. Go home and figure out what the answer is.
Yeah.
And it might be something as stupid as just like, you know, what's the difference between full frame and Super 35? I don't know.
How do I explain this?
How do I explain this? You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, well, now I need to know what's the difference. Or what's the difference between ISO and a camera having ISO or dual native ISO? Like, what are the differences, you know? And like, those are questions, you know, that you get asked or you come across in the field, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
But that's me all the time. And I wish I could turn it off sometimes because sometimes I'm, you know, my girlfriend also hates watching movies with me because I'm describing the lighting design while she's like trying to listen to the dialogue. And I'm like, well, this is more important to me. So I'm just telling you that I want to know how it works, you know?
Yeah. It's like you start talking about the lighting, then you start talking about the music, and that's my wife's just like, please, let's just watch the
Can we just watch the movie, please?
So I want to talk a little bit about you starting your business, and like, what were some of the like challenges or surprises starting out that you weren't expecting?
I would say that I actually started my business. And when I say started my business, I mean like doing this as a full-time job in 2022.
Okay.
Up until then, I was doing things, weddings, random events, and shooting for random publications and things like that. A lot of personal work, a lot of work that I wasn't getting paid for, but just to do it. And I'll talk about that as well. And in 2022, I, with the advice of a friend of mine, made a LinkedIn. I didn't have a LinkedIn at the time, and I was still bartending. And I made a LinkedIn, and like a week later, I got hit up by this person. I thought it was spam. Like, I was like, "There's no way this is a real message." And it was a lady who worked for this recruiting company, and they were looking for photographers to photograph the McDonald's Worldwide Conference that was happening in Orlando. And so I was like, "This seems a little fishy, but I'm going to respond to it." So I responded to it. They agreed to my day rate, and it was a 7-day event, and they had me out on the first day covering the award ceremony and covering like one other aspect of this event. After the event, I went back, dropped my cards to the editors, was sitting there having a chat with one of the other photographers, and the editors pulled me aside and they were like, "Hey, are you busy tomorrow?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Why? What's up?" They were like, "Would you want to come back and shoot tomorrow?" And I was like, "Sure. Yeah, like just send me the schedule." Sure. So come back the next day. Come to find out, that night they had actually fired 2 of the people that were supposed to be shooting this event because they had bad attitudes the entire time, and they delivered their cards and it was just atrocious, and they're trying to edit in real time.
Yeah.
So the next day I show up, same thing, shoot all day. At the end of the night, "Hey, can you come back tomorrow?" "Okay, here's my day rate," Then it's like, "Okay, well, you're going to go over your day rate. If you go over, are you cool with us paying you overtime?" Of course I'm fine with paying you overtime. Absolutely. Because no one's ever in the history of this type of work been like, overtime? It's like, no, I'll just pay for more hours. It's not time and a half,
Yeah.
So it just kind of one thing led to another. And then by the end of it, I'd shot all 7 days. And so at the end of that event, when I was looking at how much I was going to make from that, I kind of had this moment of, okay, if I were to go full-time photography right now, invest a little bit of money just to get a couple pieces of gear that are essential, with this money, I could float for about 4 months. Okay. So I decided, all right, I'm going to quit bartending. I'm going to go full-time photography. If, my bar manager was like, "If it doesn't work, your spot's still here, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool." So after that, I left the bar. The very next day after leaving the bar, I got asked I met a random guy who was friends with a guy who knew another guy that introduced me to this guy. He worked for an agency in Orlando. He asked me if I had time for a meeting. I go meet with him, and he's telling me that he wants me to come on board to shoot for Disney for a 1-year like retainer client.
Dude,
shooting like product and lifestyle stuff for Disney.com. And
that is amazing.
Yeah. And so that was the day after I quit bartending. And so it's just like, all right, well, this could work. This really could work. But the thing and when you talk about like starting the business and like surprises, it was, not knowing how much money I was going to have to invest in myself to be able to provide the quality of work that the clients were expecting.
Yeah.
So, when I was first starting to do all this, it was like, I had a camera, a couple lenses, like an on-camera flash, a couple strobes. But then it's like I'm looking at people that are in my area, that I'm competing with.
Yeah.
And they're shooting on like production carts and like tethering and working off of these really fancy SSD drives. And, You know, they have every lens that they need for everything, you know, and I'm working with like a 24-70 and a 70-200. So I've got 24-200 covered, but I don't have anything else outside that realm, you know? And so it was like, you know, I'm investing this money, but then it's like, okay, well, I probably should have waited a few weeks because I'm not going to get this invoice paid for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So then I start like kind of selling off gear that I didn't need. And then it's like, I think that was like the biggest struggle for me at first was trying to understand like budgeting in a way to where I'm not struggling to like make ends meet or get what I need and the necessary tools to do my job.
Yeah.
So, and I've always been like, I don't mind renting gear, but I don't really enjoy renting gear.
Yeah.
So I kind of invested a little bit too much into my business from the get-go, and then I had to take a step back and kind of get away with, as we call it, gas. You know, I had too much gas and gear acquisition syndrome for those who don't know. And, you know, I think that really kind of hit me in the face, especially when it was time to do my taxes. You know what I mean? It's like, but then it's like on the flip side, it's like looking at like, all right, well, I did spend this much money, so I'm getting to write a lot of stuff off, but still. And the other surprise I think that I felt in kind of like getting into this was just how much I'm going to be working. You know,
it's not an 8 to 5.
No,
it's you get to choose the 80 hours at least that you want to work.
Oh yeah. it's the, if I'm awake, I'm working.
Yep. 1,000%.
Like I've told this story numerous times in the past few months, but I'll never forget being like on vacation with my girlfriend and her family. And I'm like at the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland with food poisoning, responding to an email about a shoot that I'm supposed to do when I get back into Pensacola. You know what I mean? And it's like most people will be like, I'll deal with it when I get home. But my brain is like, I don't want this client to feel like I forgot about them.
Yep.
I'm at least going to respond. If my response is short, it's better than nothing.
Yep.
So I think that's the one thing that like kind of really caught me by surprise was just like how much I'm going to be working and ingesting information.
Yeah. Just from like you talking, networking has been a huge part of your success. And I think anyone that's ever done freelancing knows you live or die by your networking. So just quickly, what are some advice you would give to someone that's wanting to start a business about networking?
Okay. When it comes to networking, I think that one of the best things you can do is to kind of make sure you're not afraid to start the conversation. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't get these opportunities. It's like, well, people aren't just going to talk to you all the time. You sometimes have to do that part of the work. You know, that's the beginning stage, you know?
Yeah.
But then also too with networking, I think it's about just representing yourself in the truest form.
Yeah.
If you come across super peppy and like, you know, full of energy and like really fun to be around, but then on set you're miserable, groaning, boring, annoying, complaining, you know, you're not going to get that job again.
No.
And I learned that because I had a reputation of kind of being like an asshole. Sorry for cursing, but I had to like really check myself and say like, I'm frustrated because of people around me are getting better opportunities than me. And I'm taking that out on my client and I'm taking that out on my work and I'm taking that out on the people that are closest to me.
Yeah.
But in reality, I wasn't owning up to the fact that it's my fault to begin with. And I need to take ownership over that fact. Yeah. So when you're networking, first of all, like figuring out what it is you actually want to shoot. I think that a lot of times people are just like, yeah, I'm a photographer. Cool. What do you shoot? What do you take photos of? Everything. Kids' birthdays, dogs, cats, you know, houses.
Blades of grass, squirrels.
Whatever, you know.
My gosh.
And it's like, okay, cool. Well, good luck networking with all the people you're going to have to network to like at least have somewhat of a foundation of a business.
Yep.
So networking is a very powerful tool if you can at least niche down to 2 or 3 things that you're very passionate about. And knowing that every single person that you interact with, you do not know how many people they interact with.
Bingo.
You do not know the network they have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I shot my first time ever with Luke, with Hip in 2014. Okay. Previously from that, I knew Luke very, very, like, I'd met him a few times.
Yeah.
But I kind of retained a nice rapport with him. And, you know, he brought me on for a job. We really enjoyed working with each other. So he brought me on for another job. And then fast forward to, 10 years later, somehow from that network, I'm sitting here having this interview with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I hit it off on set.
Yeah.
Like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just got the Facebook notification that it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
But, and you and I, it's like at first we're both not like timid, but at first it's both like we got to kind of feel each other out.
Yeah, it's like, what's your vibe? That sort of deal.
But I think it's, letting you know that, hey, you are like, you weren't my direct client, but you were my client.
Yep.
And I'm here to represent my business and do work for your business. So let's be friends and let's make this work, know? But it's, a lot of times people are, like I said, it's what can you do for me? And if you can't do something for me, then I'm not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
It gets me nowhere.
Yeah.
Me, I'm the person that when I'm on set, when it's time to break down, I don't pack my stuff in my case and leave. It's what can I help with?
Yep.
And
I will say that spoke volumes to me when you were on set. You were helping move lights and all of this.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even in your purview.
Yeah.
And you were giving great suggestions creatively. We're just getting a little nerdy here, everybody. But and I love that because it was collaborative.
Yeah.
Because so many times it's like, it's not in my lane. I'm not getting paid to move a light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's I think with networking, it's not about talking to people. It's not about introducing yourself to people.
Yeah.
It's actions. And it speaks volumes. And like you said, and being on set and, just being malleable and not coming in as, I'm here to do this one thing. And if you ask me to do anything else, no, it's not. Be able and be willing to help out or to go outside of your normal wheelhouse because, I did that, on a couple of sets since I've been back in Pensacola. And then that's been, from one job that somebody else was on this job and then they get asked to do something and then they hit me up to help them or they hit me up to be the photographer. And it's all in just direct, I guess, just showing the client and who you're around the most pure, true version of yourself.
Yeah.
That you can promise you can show up with every single time.
Yeah.
Because if you're networking, you're putting on this fake, this fake attitude and this fake, everything about you is fake. It's gonna show.
Yeah. People can sniff that out.
Yeah.
Real quick.
And it's gonna come up whenever you're tested, and sometimes in this industry, like, I've shown up and, my computer won't turn on and I've shown up and none of my strobes are working. It's like, okay, well, how do I pivot and not make myself look like I'm freaking out and lose this client forever, And it all just comes into, showing when you're networking. Again, you never know who knows who. Never.
Yeah.
You never do. And always treat people like, I don't know. It's like, the cliche of treat people how you want to be treated, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it really does go a long way. And I see a lot of photographers that are so cliquey and so they have these like 3 or 4 friends. And it's funny because those 3 or 4 friends, when you look at their portfolio, it all looks the same. All the work looks the same.
Slapping the same LUT on everything.
It's the same filters, the same LUTs. And it's like, you're just someone who is creative and you're surrounding yourself with people that you're comfortable with. And eventually you're going to burn out, fade out, or you're going to separate yourself from this crew of people and figure out what it is you need to do to actually propel yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that just representing yourself in the truest form, the truest fashion and light is really what's going to get you those jobs.
Yeah.
What's going to get you on the sets that you want to be on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me, that's the most powerful part of networking, is just making sure that you're giving an authentic representation of yourself.
And I love that, because Pensacola is not the biggest market, but it is pretty big.
Yeah.
So what is some, like, how has it been running a business in Pensacola? I know it's a little unique compared to a bigger city, but tell me a little bit about running your business in Pensacola.
So running my business here versus Orlando or New York is surprisingly, being here, I've enjoyed it tenfold. Like it has been so much more rewarding for me being here.
That's awesome.
And I think it's because of, in bigger cities and bigger markets, it's a lot of agencies representing a client who need things yesterday.
Yeah.
Who are very much not that they're not appreciative of the work you're producing, but it's very, again, to use the same word again, but it feels very transactional.
Yeah, it's an invoice.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, cool, thanks for the work. See ya. Locally and doing things here, it's like there's a lot of small business owners and a lot of people that are investing in their business and wanting to see their business grow. And I think for me, it's I have more of a finger on the pulse of like being able to actually watch these businesses grow and having my photography or videography be a part of their growth.
Yeah.
Like just a couple of days ago, I'm driving to Georgia with my girlfriend for this wedding, and I've been shooting a lot of stuff for the Shrimp Basket lately, which is like a local, restaurant that a lot of people really love. And, we're driving down 65, and there's a billboard on the side of the road with my photo on it.
That is so awesome.
Didn't even know it was up. You know what I mean? But it's like moments like that, you don't get that in bigger markets, unless you're shooting for someone that's just a huge client, And I think that with being in Pensacola, it's actually one of my favorite things about being back here is that I've got friends that I went to high school with, or people that I've known since I was young, that are now running their own business, and I'm photographing assets for them for their business, you know. And in bigger markets, it's not that personable, it's not. And I think it's more rewarding here for me, at least, and running my business here. I have access to a number of different creative minds to help collaborate with. And in bigger markets, dude, you don't ask anyone their like opinion on lighting or how they would do this or how they would do that, right? The conversation's immediately hijacked into, well, you should have done this and you should have done that and I would have done this. Sometimes you just need someone to talk about it with.
Yeah.
And say, hey, can I get your eyes on this? What do you think of this? What do you think of it? Not what would you do differently?
Yeah.
And, I'm fortunate now to be surrounded by like, Lindsay Films and Calliope and Hip and Caleb Pierce and all these other people that, and like I share my studio with an insane like lineup of JD Cobb, Matt Coughlin, Liam from Other Coast Grip and Lighting, Destin from Lindsay, Joe from Clarity Control, and I'm surrounded by people that just want to create cool work. Yeah. That just want to see Pensacola evolve and grow and for a place for creatives. And, dude, never in 1,000 years would I have that kind of community in Orlando or in New York. Yeah. It's what can you do for me? Nothing. Okay. See ya. And I saw it time and time again in Orlando and especially New York, dude. It's the most cutthroat.
Well, and it's interesting because we had Caleb on and he was talking about like the coffee shop scene. He's like, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like, yeah, everybody's kind of, nose down, but people will go to different shops and all of that. And my time, doing videography freelance before I came to Hip and then doing this show, it was just like so many times I got to work with talented people, way talented than I was. Yeah. But it was such a learning aspect. Like Caleb brought me on and like I learned tons from him. And then I remember the first time I worked with Andy and I was like, intimidated.
Yeah.
You know?
He's like a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. And his lighting is just,
but he's fantastic.
It was intimidating. And I could have, this goes to that networking stage. I could have responded in, well, I would have done it this way, and it would have been way worse. But you know, it would have been that ego, that hubris going on. And I think that is one cool thing about Pensacola is like we're in the South. We all want to help each other out.
Yeah,
you know, and it's all about community.
Absolutely.
And I love that about that.
I think it speaks volumes because there's like so many of our friends and people in this industry are all, you know, under the age of 40 who are just trying to do something that they're proud of.
Yep.
And being able to be a part of that journey with those people and seeing other people have those successes, you know, it's like, you know, I'll talk to Caleb sometimes. I'm like, what are you working on? Oh, I'm doing this. Holy crap. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this. And he's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And it's like, we're able to actually have those real intimate moments as like friends and colleagues to where you're just watching your friends grow and be successful. And I think that's just something that people, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? They just like to take it for granted, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's when you're actually able to be a small part in someone else's successful life, it gives you a little bit like glimmer of like hope of like, I can also do this and be happy, you know? And you have that satisfaction.
So a little bit of gear shift here. Some advice from you on how to fire a client.
How to fire a client.
How to fire a client. Because I feel like as creatives, like we tend to be people pleasers. Let's just be honest. And we want them to love our stuff. But there's a time and place where it's just like visions aren't aligning, styles aren't aligning. How do you go about firing a client?
I've had to fire 3 clients in 3 years.
Okay.
The first one I did a very bad job. First one it should have been the other way around. I should have the way I handled it. I should not have done it the way I did it. It was a reaction.
Okay.
It was not an evaluation of why I should fire. It was a reaction of this is something that happened right now.
Yeah.
And actively telling the client on set, like, after this, we're not working together.
Ooh.
And it was strictly due to understanding that I was being very much taken advantage of for my rate.
Yeah.
And I let it get to me, and I told myself I would never react that way again. And I've kept to it. I haven't had any moment like that where I've even come close to feeling as irate as I was that day.
Yeah.
Moving forward, you know, I kind of had to take it kind of how I would if I was firing, you know, when I was a bar manager. You know, if someone's not doing their job or someone's not meeting me in the middle, my best advice with firing a client is to sit down and on your own, without involving the client first, evaluate what is going right, what is going wrong. Okay. If these things that are going wrong are fixable and you can fix them, then you should address that to the client. So, for example, the second client that I had to fire, it was a matter of showing up, shot list that I received prior to the shoot said one thing, shot list day of completely different, with added items, other items taken away. So I'm showing up with gear packed for one shoot, walking into a shoot that I was not prepared for.
Yeah.
Not only was I traveling for the shoot, so I couldn't just go home and get it, but I was also being told that, you know, I would only be doing photo this day, and then day 2 we would be doing video. Then it turns into we need photo and video both days. Okay. Well, now I've got to adjust my rate.
Yeah.
So now I've got to send you another invoice. So now also too, I'm here and I don't have the necessary gear to do this job. So we're going to have to reschedule this portion. To which the client says, well, we don't have time to reschedule.
And your new invoice has to be approved.
Yes. So I made do with what I could with this client. And then afterwards, after that shoot, this was kind of the second time they had done that. And I asked them to hop on a call.
Yeah.
I don't like to do anything like that in writing. I don't like to do anything like that over text. I like to do it, you know, in a verbal, like I want you to hear my tone.
Yeah.
I want you to know that why I'm coming to you it's a concern, you know? And I basically just told them, hey, you know, when we agreed and initially discussed working together, we had discussed this rate for this XYZ. This is the second time that I've been met with you needing assets immediately, and my time and my avail is just being completely thrown to the side.
Yeah.
It's not being taken into consideration whatsoever. And I feel like you're needing someone who this is the type of turnaround work they do all the time, whether that's a team of people or I'm not sure, but I don't think that I can give you what you are looking for.
Yeah. Because it goes back to you want to serve and elevate for your client.
Exactly. And I had to just basically tell them, you know, where I'm at with my workflow, with my business and the type of work that I do and my average turnaround time, I cannot in good faith tell you that I'm going to be able to do this job in the amount of time that you're giving me to do it. You need now, I need a couple days.
Yeah.
You know, and I basically just had to tell them where I'm at. I'm looking at what can be fixed and what cannot be fixed. Well, the thing that can be fixed, you keep surprising me. So if I fix it, how do I know it's fixed? You know what I'm saying? So like, because we talked about the first time when the shot list was all like way over the place. Yeah. You know, and I was like, hey, you know, in the future, if we could try, if there's any sort of changes, I need at least a 24-hour notice. That's not crazy.
No.
You know, 24-hour notice to let me know so I don't, you know, if I'm showing up and we need everything to be on a black backdrop, but I bring white photo paper, don't hit me with well, you could just, you know, delete it in Photoshop and, you know, make it black. Yeah, I can. But you realize that I'm photographing, you know, 100 different scenes.
Yeah.
So that's going to add hours to my editing workflow.
It's going to be totally different lighting.
You know, exactly.
All of that.
Exactly. So with that, you know, I have to I look at, again, is this salvageable? What are the benefits for me? What are the benefits for the client? And kind of just pros and cons, you know? And I think the best advice for actually firing a client is to let them know, number one, that you're taking their best interests at heart.
Yeah.
That's what you're worried about.
Yeah.
Unless it's just them just being blatantly disrespectful or doing something that is just completely out of line.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I feel like it's usually a creative struggle of not being able to kind of meet in the middle in a way to where the relationship feels like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's copacetic. It's going both ways, and we're here to help each other.
Yeah.
But if you're the only one gaining anything and I'm just constantly getting dumped on, then it's not working.
Yeah. 1,000% agree with that, because there are so many times where if you, again, a lot of creatives, people pleasers, and people can sniff that out. They, you know, a lot of businesses, they can smell the blood in the water, and they're like, oh, we can, you know, get more out of his day rate and he'll be shooting forever. But also not knee-jerk reactions. That, I think that's a huge part that you just laid out, is if you're upset on set, take 5 minutes. Like, hey, gonna go to the bathroom, you know, and just cool down, and then don't make a decision then.
No, never make a decision right then.
Never make a decision.
No.
You know, and it's okay to go home, journal about it, whatever you need to do to get it all out, vent to somebody, whatever. Get with a therapist. I don't care. It's because if you are known to blow up and fire people or cause a scene, you're going to be known as that person.
Absolutely.
Regardless if it's photography, bartender, whatever it is, it's like you want to be known as the cool, calm, and collected person.
Sure.
On set or whatever. And I think it goes with firing or hiring people. It's like you never want to just, oh, well, I feel this thing. It's like never go off of just feelings.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's like you got to think through it before you do it.
And that's again, when I said that I had this reputation for being like not a fun person to be around, it was because I was letting my anger take a leap forward before I was actually understanding what it was I was actually mad about. Sometimes it was me being angry that I couldn't figure out how to fix the problem immediately. Sometimes it was not having the knowledge to fix the problem and feeling discouraged. And then it's like, well, I'll just blame somebody else for it, you know? And like you said, being a people pleaser, it's tough because in this industry, you're right. We all try to be,
and we want our stuff to be loved.
Exactly. And that's all we're trying to do is to create something that we're proud of and that the client loves. And that, if we see it in the wild or if we see it, somebody post it or something, it's like, we're proud of that,
Yeah.
And yeah, firing a client's tough, man. It's never fun. And sometimes, a lot of times with client work, especially people that work with agencies, the agency having to be the middleman with the client, sometimes that's difficult because the client's expressing one thing to the agent and then the agent is expressing one thing to you. But sometimes it gets kind of convoluted and like not really direct.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm working with an agency that's working with a client, if I'm having problems with this client, I'm going to bypass the agency and go to the client. Because sometimes it's not the client being lazy. It's not the client being avoidant. It's not the client not paying the invoices. Sometimes it's the person in the middle that could be dropping the ball.
Yeah.
So when I say like I'll sit back and I'll look at what's working, what's not working, sometimes it comes down to just communication in general.
Yeah.
And who is my point of contact? Well, if this point of contact if it's not working, then maybe I can get a different point of contact.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can request to work with someone else on the team. You know? But I think, again, like you said, it's taking a step back and seeing like, okay, what is frustrating me here and can I fix it? And if I can, let's try, and not just jumping to like I'm not doing this. I'm not working with you. You're too frustrating.
Yeah. You don't want to be a small child throwing a temper tantrum.
No, not at all.
So last part of the interview of Building Pensacola, we love to do some rapid fire questions. Don't have to go super in depth with these, but the first one is, would you rather have a grilled cheese or a taco made specifically, however you want, however detailed, and what would it be?
I think I'm going to go grilled cheese.
Okay. What is lay it out for me. What is your perfect grilled cheese?
You might laugh at me. My girlfriend actually makes fun of me often for this, but my grilled cheese of choice is the Starbucks grilled cheese.
Wow.
I think it's one of the best grilled cheeses I've ever had. It's so good. I don't know why it's so good. I wish I knew, but that's it. I think it's just like it's like Gouda and something else, and then it's like garlic butter, sourdough. It's
just a perfect blend.
Just perfect.
What is your favorite fast food fry?
My favorite fast food fry. That's
a little bit of alliteration right there.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm probably gonna get some crap for this one, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Arby's curly fries, man.
That's a solid choice.
Yeah,
that's a solid choice. Underrated, I feel at times.
If they're fresh, I think it's my favorite fry.
Yeah.
If they're not fresh, it's definitely my least favorite favorite fry. I would say close second. Close second is probably the fast food fries. Probably Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Old or new fry? That's more of the question.
See, I'm with you on that because I kind of like the older fry better.
Same.
Yeah.
Had more flavor.
I don't know really what changed, but I feel like it's just the potato quality is a little different. Yeah.
1,000% agree.
Yeah.
So what song, no matter what's going on in life, when you hear it, you instantly become happier?
Losing a Whole Year by Third Eye Blind.
Oh, Third Eye Blind, I like.
It's the first song off their self-titled album, and that song to me just evokes so much like nostalgia and like happiness because, you know, when that album came out, it was 1997, and my mom got that album and she played it until it disintegrated, I think. But it was one of those, you know, back when we were younger, you know, a lot of times, depending on the car, when you started the car, if it was a CD, and it would start at the beginning no matter what.
Yep.
Eventually, we got ones that would start where you left off. But it was like one of those things, I feel like for so many years, the car would start and that just quiet intro of that song would play. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I got older and I don't remember where I was, but I was somewhere at like a house party or something. I was in my mid-20s, and I went to go with somebody who was going to get some food or something, and we got in the car, and he was like, "Hey, I've got like a little CD book down there if you want to pick out a CD." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I saw the Third Eye Blind record, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't listened to this in years." And I put it in, and immediately I just got this like
warm,
like yeah. And so now it's just been this song that for me, it's probably my favorite song of all time. So
I guess I need to look this one up tonight.
It's good.
I love it.
Yeah.
Last two. What is one book you think that every business leader or entrepreneur should read?
Setting the Table from Danny Meyer.
I like that one. Unreasonable Hospitality
by William is great.
Yeah. I need to go back and read Setting the Table after I've read Unreasonable.
Yeah. It's kind of funny though you say though, because Will worked for Danny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool because Unreasonable Hospitality is awesome because you see all of these traits that he kind of inherited from Danny. But how he like took them as lessons and not just like commandments. It's almost like these are lessons that I'm learning and I'm going to grow.
Yeah.
And each one of these lessons, I'm now going to create branches of different, you know, lessons to take out. But I think that Setting the Table is, especially as a creative, that book changed my life. It changed the way I interact with people, and looking at people as hospitality is more important in this industry than people think it is.
1,000%.
And making like how you make people feel is just, it's huge. And I think that with that book, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you interact with people in any capacity, that book will be something that it'll make you see the world and your relationships completely different.
Yeah. So, new perspective. That's what I love in like a book meant to develop you.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's not just here's a bunch of list of the top 21, you know, this, that, and the other. It's it's how can I expand my world more?
Yeah. Because I think that it's important to know, it's important to hear about people's failures. You know, it's cool to hear about people's successes, but how many times did you have to do what you did to get to where you are?
Yeah.
You know, and how many times have you yourself thought that you failed?
Yeah.
You know, and I think with Danny Meyer, it's vulnerable in that book, and same with Will. It's vulnerable in a way that, like, you know, he's talking about, you know, we opened this restaurant. It was a surefire success based on the location, based on the timing, and then failed. You know, and it's like, and this is why it failed, and now I know.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to kind of know both sides of the success, because with success is oftentimes more struggle than anything.
Yes, and you learn more from failure than success.
Oh, absolutely.
Last question, Blake, before we wrap this one up. What is the next for you in your entrepreneurial journey or your business journey?
Next for me, I think for me, I am trying to get to a point where I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive to like being a creative, but I'm trying to get to a point where I can turn down more work.
Charge more and do
Not
less?
even charge more.
Okay.
I think I'm trying, what I mean when I say that is I'm trying to get to a point where I'm creating work that I know is going to bring me joy. Again, financial gain is great. Money is awesome. But nothing feels better than being happy. And if I'm constantly working and constantly putting my head down and working, I want the work to be helping that happiness and that joy. And so I don't mean like I don't want to work. What I mean is I want to get to a point where I don't have to jump at like every opportunity that comes my way.
Yeah.
I can be a little more selective. And then also too, it creates more of a way for me to pass on work to other people and things like that, because, you know, a lot of us are, you know, we're hungry for work and we're starving for work. So we're not going to pass work off, but I pass work off all the time because I feel like some people just do a better job than what the client's wanting from me. And it's not my wheelhouse, you know?
Yeah.
That's another thing too that's frustrating about this industry is you see people that will just, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not, but people will just do things that are just way outside their wheelhouse and then wonder why they don't get that same job again or why they don't get more work like that again. It's because you maybe should have like dipped your toes into the water a little bit, figure out if it's for you, because if it's not for you, then you're going to find out quick, but you're going to find out the wrong way.
Yep.
Since I do primarily food and beverage, I have so many friends that have told me, like, I don't know how you make food look the way you do. I can't stand shooting food.
Yeah.
And then I have people that'll take a job and shoot for a restaurant. And then while they're in the middle of the shoot, sending me DMs, hey, how would you like this? Or what would you do with this? And it's like, I'll tell you, you know what I mean? I'm not going to charge. I don't like the whole like mentorship thing. It's like, if you have questions, I'm going to answer them if I know the answer. But I think that, you know, being able to pass on work to people that's what they do, you know, you'll kind of find more joy in that, I think. And also too, it creates a network of you being the guy that if you're not the person for the job, you have resources to help the person who's looking, you know what I mean? So then it becomes a thing of, you know, well, if a client's like, oh, well, last time I needed a photographer for this, I hit up Blake. Let me see if he's got anybody in mind, you know? And it's like, well, maybe this job might be more suited for what I would do, so I can help you, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that also speaks to clients too, because some people are kind of surprised when I'm like, you know, actually you should hit up, you know, JD or Caleb or Joe.
Yeah.
Because they're going to knock this out of the park. I can do it, but I think you're going to like their work better for this, you know?
Yeah. And I think that comes from maturity, is knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are and not being afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
And that right there is the sign of a mature person.
Sure.
That, they're competition when you get down to it, quote unquote. But again, that's why Pensacola is really cool, is everybody's working together. Everybody wants to see people succeed, because nothing sucks more when you talk to somebody who's like, oh, how's it been going? Man, it's been rough. I haven't been able to get jobs. And I definitely have been in that place, and I get the text, hey man, I got this shoot. I can't take it. Can you take it? And it's like, oh man, somebody believes in me and they've given me some work. And that's like a breath of fresh air.
It really is. And Matt Coughlin's been like one of those people for me. Like anytime he gets hit up to do something and he can't, he's very big on like, he'll give them three recommendations of people he trusts, you know?
Yeah.
And another thing that I do is if I do get a job that maybe I know someone would also be fit for, I'll try to budget to have them out to be like on set with me, to be my assistant. Like I do that with Caleb all the time. Caleb does that with me all the time. And I think it's cool to just be constantly, it doesn't matter if you're there to just take the photos, or you're there to do the lighting, or you're there to be a digitech, or you're there to like, you know, go and get people their food for the day. Whatever it is, you're part of something. You're creating something together. And I think there's something to be said about just, like like just having those moments of being surrounded by people that are all just trying to be creative and do something cool, and you're in it, you know? So it doesn't have to be this egomaniacal, like I have to be the one in charge. Learning how to work together and work around other people that are all trying to achieve the same goal can help you grow exponentially.
Blake, thank you so much for being on Building Pensacola.
Absolutely.
Where can everybody find you online? You probably don't want to give them your address.
No. So all of my work, for the most part, can be viewed at blakejonesphoto.com. My Instagram is Blake Jones. I was lucky to get on Instagram in like 2010 when it was basically just sign up, use your name. No one really had anything crazy. Like, I feel like everyone at that time was like doing the classic, like maybe if somebody had their name taken, it was like,
underscore somewhere.
But yeah, I was very fortunate. I got just my name. So it's Blake Jones on Instagram. And then I also am in a partnership with Monix Studios downtown. So like I said, myself, Matt Coughlin, JD Cobb, Joe Cicerelli with Clarity Control, Liam with Other Coast Grip and Lighting, and then Destin is also from Lindsay Film, is also kind of inside a partnership with that. So yeah, we that's primarily where, I'm at if I'm not out on set, and yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching this episode of Building Pensacola. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, because Mama always says, if you ain't got nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. And we'll see you on the next one.